Hello, everybody. It's Guy Raz here. Welcome to How I Built This Online, our new series where we're bringing on founders to talk about how they're kind of coping with the crisis and building resiliency and creative ways that they're thinking about keeping their businesses running. This is really designed for everyone who's watching, for all of us. So please bring your questions. Excuse me. I'm joining you from my studio here in near my home studio here in the Bay Area. And I'm super excited for today's conversation. I'm joined by Susan Griffin Black. She's the co-founder of EO Products. They make soaps, they make essential oils, and hand sanitizer. That is a huge part of what they do. So obviously, that company has been very busy. Susan was on How I Built This a few months ago, almost a year ago. And it's just an incredible story of how they started this company and scraped by for so many years. Today, it's one of the biggest independently owned beauty products companies in the United States. Susan, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you too. It's been a few months since I saw you. Where are you right now?
Well, I'm in my office because we are an excluded employer because we're making only hand sanitizers and hand soap. And so what that means is 2/3 of the people are working from home, and who is here on 2 shifts are all the people who make our products, fill our products, and ship our products, plus support positions like quality control and so forth. And then senior leadership, depending on our situations, we've been taking turns just coming in and making sure that people are okay. So we have every safety protocol in place, and our main concern is that people are healthy and safe. I mean, after all, we're making hand sanitizer. That's our job here. And we are finding, other than dealing with these unsettling times and being overwhelmed with demand, that we are united in a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
That is daunting sometimes, you know?
You are you're in Marin, in Petaluma, is that right? Or Santa Rosa?
We're in San Rafael.
San Rafael, in Marin County, California.
Yes.
Okay. And you are an
Yes.
essential business, so you are allowed to operate, obviously, making soap and hand sanitizers. What about your other product lines? Have you kind of just frozen those and focusing primarily on hand sanitizers and soaps?
Yes, we've devoted all of production to mostly hand sanitizers, supported by hand soap, and we're working on other relationships with one contract manufacturer that we have been in relationship with for a long time to see if they can help us out, during these times.
Wow.
And they're also in California.
Wow. So I just want to remind everyone listening that we are going to take your questions. So please submit them through Facebook, and we'll get to your questions throughout the conversation. Susan, obviously super uncertain times for a lot of businesses. A lot of founders who've been on the show I've been in touch with. I've talked to a lot of small business owners through social media, and people are really worried. People are really freaking out, especially in companies and businesses where you need human to human interaction. First of all, it sounds like right now your business is doing fine. I mean, maybe strangely even better than normal.
Well, I would say there's a certain amount of stability that comes with the increased demand, and in a more orderly way, because we know what we're making. A lot of times, we are forecasting the best we can, and this is a very unique situation where we just can't make enough to meet the demand. So in a way, you could say, great, it simplifies things, and it does in some ways. But then there are difficulties with supply chain and, just unprecedented demand. And it's also like, remember years ago that commercial on when people started online stores, and everyone was gathered, like watching the results come in, and they were like, wow, and they're cheering. And then all of a sudden it gets to this place where it's like, you can never do that no matter what, no matter how. And so it's that sort of feeling. And usually, and that's a great problem to solve, except the times are so sad and tragic and scary that it feels like, you can't, almost like you can't feed people, you can't help people, you can't, so it's daunting.
Yeah.
It's daunting. And we are staying very flexible to the need, because it became obvious 6 weeks ago that if we're not getting hand sanitizer to first-time responders, then what are we doing? You've got pallets on trucks,
Yeah.
You've got tons in warehouses,
Wow.
but they're not, it's not where people actually need it the most. So we just keep thinking and reallocating and responding as intentionally and consciously as we can to what, as needs arise and as we just, redistribute products.
Susan, I want to just, before we get to questions, talk a little bit about sort of your kind of the thing that you've really been, focused on throughout your career, which is self-care, right? Which is not always easy for everybody. And normally we're so busy, we get up and we've got these busy days, and most of us spend, I don't know, an hour or two at our homes every day because we're but now we're all in. Self-care is super important. It's not easy for everybody. Obviously, there are lots of people who still have to leave their homes every day. You're leaving your home to go to work, and a lot of people who are working at EO need to work to make these products. But just in terms of like self-care, right? What are some things that you think people can do? I mean, I just give you one quick thing that I've been doing, and I love coffee. I drink coffee like 10 cups of coffee a day, but 3 weeks ago when we kind of shut in, I just stopped drinking it because it was like heightening my anxiety, because coffee makes your heart beat, right? So I've just been drinking tea, and that's been actually great. It's been really great. I've been trying to drink a lot of fluids and water and tea and just kind of stay hydrated. What are kind of some self-care things? Because a big part of what you do is make essential oils and personal care products.
Right, and we make them available so that people can quickly experience just a moment of self-care, which, because, and we've talked about this before, but your sense of smell sort of bypasses the part of your brain that thinks. So by spraying just lavender, even this hand sanitizer,
Yeah.
and taking a deep breath, when you exhale, something changes. It's a small shift, but it's a real shift.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one of essential oils' best feature, in terms of whether you diffuse essential oils or dilute them and put them on your skin. Also, I learned to meditate easily when my son, who's now 33, was 2 in the bathtub, because I found that, and this is especially for, when you're with kids all day homeschooling, hot water is really good medicine anytime, and it's accessible. So even if you take a few drops of eucalyptus or lavender, put it on the shower floor, close the door, put a towel under it, and make sort of a quasi little steam room, sit in there for a little bit, turn the water down, take a shower. It changes everything. And, you could put a little orange in there and put your kids in the shower. So, that's one sort of avenue. Baths are, I'm a swear by bath taking, because, again, accessible to most people, and it changes our state of mind in a simple and accessible way. And then, of course, just getting outside for a 10-minute, just walk, move, inhale fresh air. I was saying to someone, if you just took a sample of 10 plants that are in your front yard that you don't know what they are, it's a really good family exercise to just say, oh, this is, rosemary, and and you just sort of get a little bit more in touch with sense of place.
Yeah.
It's very grounding.
We have a small geranium plant on our back porch. We have a very small house, so we've been using it to make tea, just pouring hot water. And geranium, I'd learned that from my mom. It's amazing. All right, let's go to some questions, Susan. This is from Pam Charles Hoadley. She asks, can you talk about your public sort of brand communication strategy during the crisis? What are you sort of publicly doing right now?
Yeah, we are talking about health and safety and connection, and in every way that we can, that is real, and that we're all worried together, and that, you know, any reassurance that we can give people to stay safe and healthy and sane is what our communication is all about. We so we've been doing that very consistent, along with the CDC guide, and, you know, reading everything that may be helpful. But we're supporting the best and the most sort of widespread information from CDC and WHO. Like, you know, there's a controversy now about masks. Do we wear them? Do we not wear them? You know, I've taken to wearing glasses all the time because it helps me not touch my eyes, you know? So I think like any help, and that is a good reason for mask wearing. Just no touching your face.
Right. Do you, by the way, in terms of your employees, because people have to come in to work at the plant to make hand sanitizer, to make soap. How are you sort of maintaining, you know, health at the workplace? This is from Lanny Caffey. She's asking that question.
Right. So there's a daily check-in and check-up. There are sanitizers everywhere. And of course, we're observing social distancing. And as any new protocols sort of, you know, come to fore, masks, where we just ordered cloth masks that people can wear. And of course, in compounding, everyone wears masks and goggles all of the time. Everyone has hairnets on. So it's really just enforcing and modeling, you know, what it is that we can all do to help each other through.
Susan, in terms of like from a business standpoint, I mean, I know that you alluded to the supply chain challenge, and that is probably going to pose increasing challenges as time passes and as many of us remain inside, because you rely on getting lavender and getting, you know, oils from all over the world, where you source them from very specific places. So how do you begin to plan for the possibility of supply chain disruption with your business?
Yeah, it's tricky. And the simple answer is, as best we can, by being in touch with our primary vendors and just trying to project as much as we can. And also we've committed to, you know, quadrupling our inventory in certain items as quickly as we can. So whoever, you know, we're just all working it together, from our lavender supplier and our, you know, sugar-based alcohol supplier in Brazil. And there's a lot of logistics. You know, FDA has tightened some of these rules temporarily. You know, so distilleries are making hand sanitizer, but you know, it's not really a part-time gig. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a serious operation that's, you know, mandated by the FDA, and it's over-the-counter drug panel, because you want the reliability to be there time after time after time, right? If it's supposed to be 65% alcohol on the first day, on the last day, it still has to be 65% alcohol. So all of those things, you know, that it takes to make sure that that's true, you know, we've been enmeshed in for 20 years.
So when you would like your hand sanitizers, and most hand sanitizers will say, 60, 62% ethanol as the active ingredient, um, and you spray that on your hands, can you be fairly confident that that will, you know, kill a coronavirus germs? I mean,
No, we can't say that. We say 99.9% of germs. And what does that mean? That means whatever bacterial, viral droplets, are around. But I think Purell got into trouble by saying that it protects against corona. Look, if we knew what protected against corona other than social distancing and everything, every precaution that we're trying to take, we would, of course, exercise that, but
yeah,
there's no straight line yet. So, we are doing everything, of course, like everyone else that we can.
right. This is a question from Zach from Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, it's another supply chain question. What is the current state and the future outlook for supply chain of the alcohol used in your hand sanitizer? You mentioned Brazil. Obviously Brazil is just at the start of this, like a lot of countries. You know, what's the outlook for the alcohol? I mean, is there a possibility that we may find ourselves in a shortage of that ingredient?
I don't think so because we have so many, there are a lot of variations on the theme. The quality that we've been working with, prefer, and have procured over the past 20 years has been, organic alcohol from sugarcane in Brazil. And we were probably one of the first ones in the marketplace to use that. And there's also non-GMO corn alcohol that's available. And then, of course, there's plenty of GMO corn alcohol available in this country. So it's a matter of the quality of ingredients, and not everyone wants the alcohol that we use because it's more expensive.
Yeah. Susan, this is a question from Leanne in San Diego. She's asked, given that you've really ramped up production on hand sanitizers, have you found a way to make it available, to give it to frontline health care workers, to maybe even make it available for free to people working on the front lines?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what
So we've donated to all of the emergency rooms and the police, the firemen, everybody in, and then now we are providing sanitizers to the local governments, and we donated 200,000 hand sanitizers to Lyft in the beginning so that their drivers were safe and people who were in cars were safe.
right.
So, and also, we have one little store in Mill Valley, and it occurred to me that in the markets close by can't get hand sanitizer because they go through distributors. So it leaves our warehouse on a pallet, it goes over here, then it got, so I would just stand outside and hand out. I just went to every supermarket and gave every checkout person hand sanitizer. I just take it with me. Every restaurant, takeout place, you'll see our sanitizer. I've personally given families that I see walking down the street. So as much as we can help and give away and donate, we are like on the ground doing that.
I mean, this is a pretty significant pivot, right? Because even though hand sanitizer was a significant part of your business, now it is the main business, right? And actually, I happen to have like a gallon bottle of EO soap that we use to refill our little bottles, right? And that's also, you've ramped that up. So how do you actually? I mean, you've set yourself a target for, producing 10x, 20x, 30x of this stuff. How do you actually do that? I mean, it can't just be about running the production facility 24 hours a day, or is it like how do you
No.
actually?
Yes. So that's a good question. So first of all, I think that we will be able to do 1,000,000 units out of our own facility, okay, of like 2-ounce hand sanitizer, say,
In
and say
California.
right, and then we will subcontract with another supplier who is a private label manufacturer, and they have automated equipment, which we don't, so they can, probably 5 times that easily. So the trick is, how do you get through this period, and then what happens after that, right? So because you don't want to over respond and then have this, a crazy amount of inventory
Right.
after. And then also it's a matter of, maintaining the product that we make, so that we don't compromise quality. So then there's no quick fix. There's as quick as we can do it. There's
Yeah.
as fast as we can go. There's intention, but it's not, an overnight kind of a thing. Even
Susan,
ramping up, yeah, it takes
okay.
6 weeks.
10, say to 10, how many weeks did you say?
6.
6 weeks, wow.
6, yeah.
Susan, there are lots of people watching. I just want to remind people watching that you can submit your questions on Facebook, and we will try to get to as many as we can. I just want to shout out to a couple of people: Dante in LA, Eugene tuning in Atlanta, Liz from Lumio Designs, Light Up Wearables in Seattle, Aaron from Maryland, Etak Nude from Maine, got Shauna Walters and Nye in Miami. We've got James Naylor in Long Beach, Jefferson from Charlotte. Thank you for watching. Klaus Reichert from Württemberg in Germany. Thank you for tuning in from there. Here's a question from Shauna in Miami, which I think is a really kind of an interesting question. She says she's seeing a lot of people with kind of a lifestyle change. People are trying to kind of keep their immune systems strong, and she's seeing people walking and biking and giving up coffee, running, and so I don't know. I mean, is there a world where you can imagine that this is such a momentous, significant moment in human history, right? Because I think it's not unrealistic to say that it is huge. That actually everything that happens after this is fixed or resolved, or we find a vaccine, everything will change. Even the way we sort of our own personal approach to health.
Mm-hmm. I do think that it really puts priorities, realigns our priorities in a much more human and healthy way, and that we, by slowing down and quieting down and not moving around so much, that we're so much less distracted, which can be difficult, because we're just not really used to being confined in that way. And so I do think people will take heed and try to figure out what it is that has heart and meaning, and how valuable, and you can't take your health for granted. And, clean hands will be like brushing your teeth. I mean, you've got to have clean hands.
Yeah.
It's it changes what health means and ways to be healthy. So I think it's a real wake-up call, and that a global wake-up call, So it's big.
By the way, do you find your hands to be all cracked and like dry, and maybe not yours, because you've got like moisturizers all over your house, but I've got like cracked, dry, bloody hands all the time.
Well, of course, lotion. Very moisturizing lotion is the idea, ours or anyone's. And, we do have glycerin in our hand sanitizer, so it's less, there is a moisturizing component to it. But, Guy, even like simple kitchen olive oil, or almond oil, or any sort of like oil, and then lotion over oil, and then, take one of those pairs of gloves and give yourself a little hand treatment,
Yeah.
and yeah, that'll fix it.
Have
But
you?
it's constant care,
Yeah. 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 For sure. By the way, have you had to um, ramp up hiring too? I mean, have you had to bring on additional help?
We have in production. So through temp agencies, and it's tricky, just because of health reasons. That so one of the things we did was reallocated some people who were doing some office work, and they are now doing e-commerce shipping. And then when we need help in production, we try to make it as internal as we possibly can, because it's 2 shifts. So, but we have been hiring, not a lot, because the process is so streamlined now that we don't need that many extra people.
Susan, here's something that I'm wondering about, because so much of your business is about touch, right? Like, I mean, you talked to me when we first met about how you apply. Like, I mean, I'd never used lavender oil in my life, right? But I talked to you about sleep. I always have problems sleeping, and
Mhm.
you suggested using lavender like behind your ears, and I do it, and it's actually amazing. Like, I got some of your essential oil, and I do it, but so much of your business is about touch, right? Like showing people where to apply the oils, and you're a
Mhm.
hugger, and you're like, I mean, what's the future of handshakes and touch and embracing people? Like, how are you gonna, like, I mean, how are you dealing with that right now?
And we've been talking about this because it's so alienating to myself to not be able to do the natural, affectionate, movement, and and touch is very important, and so I think it's really it when you think about clean hands, it's it really is a health issue, and it's just magnified now. I mean, prior to this, and I'm not just essentially not a germaphobe.
Yeah,
So it's, uh, but it does become apparent of what the transference of uh, germs are and health, and we want everyone we love, anyone we want to hug, we want them to be healthy.
I know. It's so crazy. Like, I'm even paranoid. I'm just gonna admit, like, I've been scared to hug my kids, but I've started to do it again because it's been 3 weeks. Because just as they're like, you just don't know. It's so weird. I mean, it's like sometimes my youngest son like comes to our bed in the middle of the night, and I'm like, I've been worried about that, and it's just so weird. It's such a weird feeling. That question, by the way, was from Emily Pick. Thank you, Emily. We have time for one more question before we go, and I think this is a really important question. This is from Michelle Zacks. She I think probably works in the communications field. She says the demand for her expertise has really increased, right? If you are involved in public relations or crisis communications or whatever it might be, you're probably in demand. And she's asking if you have advice for somebody like her who is struggling with motivation and purpose at this moment. I mean, she's so busy and so crazed, but there's also this insane thing that's happening in the world right now, and it's hard not to be just to be obsessed with it. I'm sure so many people are looking at the news and just feeling helpless. So I don't know, what advice do you have for somebody who's running a business right now, just kind of struggling with motivation and a sense of purpose right now?
Yeah, it's so difficult, and I think that taking a walk out, the simple things that are grounding. Well, news fast for sure. You just have to, and even though I know it's very much part of her job, and she has to keep on top of it, there's not so much new news. It's just the consistency of the stream of the same information, of the same awfulness, really, over and over again. So take just extracting yourself from that, taking a break, going outside, getting fresh air, maybe doing an online meditation or yoga class, having a cup of tea, when in and of itself, and not while reading emails, just sitting still really for 5 or 10 minutes outside can help quite a bit. And the motivation point, I think you really just have to look for ways to help. Like, how can we each make it a little bit better for others? And take the focus off of, our own anxiety. And it is really helpful to take the focus off of yourself, which is sort of goes back to self-care.
Yeah.
We take care of ourselves so we can better take care of others.
I totally agree. I mean, what you're doing, making more hand sanitizers, there's a purpose with it. I mean, even this little, these live conversations we're having, we feel like it's a way to gather our community. And it's that, for me, as a motivator, this idea that we're, as you say, we're trying to think about ways that we can make a contribution, even though it's minuscule. So thank you so much for that, Susan. Susan Griffin Black, co-founder of EO Products, thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind everyone listening that these conversations are going to be happening regularly. We've got another one next Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern with David Neeleman, the founder of JetBlue Airways and Azul. He'll have a lot of interesting insight into the airline industry. On next Friday, we'll have Tristan Walker, the founder of Bevel Products, personal care products and grooming products. He was also on How I Built This. That's also happening at 12 Eastern next Friday. So next Wednesday at 12 Eastern, next Friday at 12 Eastern. We've got 2 more of these coming up. We've got some really great ones planned in the weeks ahead. On Monday, we have a brand new episode of How I Built This, the story of Swell, the bottles, the water bottles.